In my first year of flying, I also put a lot of hard work into bettering my mental health. Flying was like my inspiration and my motivation to get myself to the person that I wanted to be.
I'm so ready.
The biggest unlock. Right, and release. Right.
Everyone ready to be released?
Good, hold those A's, keep coming, and release, good.
In August of 2020, Gillian was introduced to the Aviator family in the form of her first tandem experience. Little did she know that this first flight would set in motion a chain of events that would take her to become the school manager for the largest paramotoring group in the United States. This is her story.
I'm very excited. It's gonna be interesting.
I'm just scared to like crash and fall.
Good. Nice work.
I had basically zero self-confidence, and if you knew me before I flew paramotors, I was very quiet. I don't know why I'm crying, but after my first flight, I was definitely still nervous, but it built me up so much. Just the more I flew, the more I realized like how much I could actually enjoy my life. When I tell my students that paramotor literally changed my life, it's not an exaggeration. I don't usually go into depth on how it has changed my life, but it gave me a vision into what my life could look like and to achieve my dreams and my goals.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Aviator Show. I'm Matt Lupke, I'm the COO here at Aviator, and I wanted to take some time today to introduce you to our new school manager, Gillian Wintermute.
I am Gillian Wintermute, and I am a lead instructor here at Aviator Paramotor. I met some of the Aviator family in Virginia when they were teaching a class there, and it was in this big giant house where literally all the instructors and all the students were staying together. So I was kind of like, my first introduction was this giant group of people who loved aviation all staying in one house and like constantly geeking out about a bunch of different stuff, whether it be about gear or weather or whatever it may be. So, and I really wasn't into aviation at that time, so like stepping into this little like bubble where people were just like talking about it constantly, I was like, whoa, this is kind of crazy. But you guys were like just constantly having fun.
What'd you think?
I loved it.
Awesome.
You know, even if people were making mistakes, it was like, how can we learn from that mistake, or how can we help each other and support each other? It was just an incredible environment to be like stepping into. Incredible experience. I think I fully couldn't even grasp what happened. I loved the freeing feeling of it, but again, was still on the fence about whether I would be able to do it on my own. So when I was 9 years old, I ingested a rare parasite and was hospitalized for that. And in that hospitalization, the doctors kind of realized there was a bigger issue at hand. So a few months later, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. From there on out, I was just kind of sent into constant sickness, constant chronic fatigue. I had my first surgery when I was 11, had about 6 inches of my small intestine removed, was constantly in a trial and error process of medications, of treatments, all this different stuff, trying to find what worked for me as an individual. When I was 17, my health was at its absolute worst. I had to have a few more surgeries that year, but eventually when I turned 18, things turned around. I started getting a little bit healthier. When I started to get healthy, I realized there were a lot of other issues that I had been avoiding, like the fact that I had extreme anxiety and very bad depression. Sorry, I don't want to cry. It was very like isolating to go through the things I went through and not having like, I had a great support system through my family and my doctors, but it's hard when like no one else around you really knows what you're going through and you're just trying to get through it without kind of like recognizing what's actually happening. So when I started to get better in terms of like my physical health, I kind of sort of began to realize all the trauma that I had experienced because of it. And all of the subconscious thoughts like, you know, I'm never gonna be able to have a job that I want, or I don't know, there were just a lot of missed opportunities in my young childhood because I wasn't physically capable of doing them. If I wasn't in the hospital, I was stuck in bed at home because I couldn't be out of bed for maybe more than 30 minutes without experiencing excruciating pain or just chronic fatigue. So I kind of was isolated from all my peers, all my friends. Didn't even really want anyone to see me in that state. It just made me feel worse. It finally started to all hit me mentally and just sent me into this deep depression where I didn't know who I was because my whole identity was kind of rooted around my disease. All these other kids around me were planning on going to college and they knew what degrees they wanted, and I had zero focus on my future because, again, I'm just living day by day trying to get to a healthy point. Didn't know what to do. I saw all these kids going to college, so I decided to just enroll in community college, and I went, still had zero clue who I was or what I was doing. Managed to just graduate. I was starting to find myself a little bit more, but I knew that there was like this person deep inside of me that I knew was like my true self, but like didn't know how to get out. I was still so depressed and knew that I wanted to be excited about life, but I didn't know how to get to that point. I was terrified of getting sick again. Eventually when, you know, I learned about paramotors and saw what they were, I was like, that's like, I'm not capable of that at all. Didn't have the confidence for it.
This one's for you, Gillian. Do you accept the challenge?
Didn't think it was gonna be something that I would ever do.
Surprise!
And then I saw a video of flying in Iceland, and just like the feeling that it captured of like freedom and exploration and all that, I was like, you know what, I need to do that. Because like spending a bunch of time in a hospital bed where you have zero physical capabilities and chronic fatigue, all I dreamed about was traveling. And weirdly enough, living in a van and just exploring. So when I saw that, I was like, that's what I want. I want to travel, I want to explore. So when I had finally people pushing me to do this, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna try. So it took a lot to push past my self-doubt.
Run, run, run. Slide right, keep running. Okay, run right at me, release, power. Lean back, get your hips out. Power, power, smooth to full, pressure to your shoulders. Squeeze your left hand, squeeze your left hand, squeeze your left hand. Oh yeah, hands back up, slow to the pulley. Just keep holding that power. Just keep holding full power for me. Love you, you're doing it, I'm so happy for you, that's beautiful.
And when I landed from my first flight, I literally dropped to my knees and started sobbing my eyes out.
Been emotional the past hour and a half, so I was like crying while I was up there, then immediately when I landed. So it's been a very, very good night, and I just flew for the first time.
Everyone thought I had hurt myself because I literally dropped to my knees and started crying. But really, I was just like, I don't feel like it's that traumatic. I don't know why I'm crying. And I think I explained this during the video debrief after my first flight. I remember saying like, I have so much self-doubt and zero confidence that like, up until I was literally running into my first flight, I did not believe that I was gonna be able to do it.
We trained together in January 2020. My wife got the first flight, I got the second flight, and Jill got the third flight. So we were all kind of watching each other progress. When we got that first flight, Jill was an emotional wreck. That flight was a really life-changing experience for her. The thing that really resonated for me, and I've told this story a lot of times since then, was how Jill describes it is she turned on her badass mode. And this is why I think she is going to be absolutely amazing for this job, is that she is a badass. She has gone through so many adversities. When she gets in her head that she's gonna do something, she does it.
After my first flight, I was definitely still nervous, but it built me up so much. And just the more I flew, the more I realized like how much I could actually enjoy my life. It gave me a reason to change my viewpoint, to work on my mental health, to get myself to that inner person that I knew was there deep down and trying to get out. Early on, I feel like my main goal was to just make it the easiest it could be, because it does seem like a very daunting task to kite a big wing above your head and also have a big propeller and motor on your back. So at first, everything feels super overwhelming. I would literally run through like a checklist in my head during each launch of like what I needed to accomplish in order to get myself in the air. So I feel like in the beginning, it was like, how can I get better at kiting so that when I'm kiting on my launch, I'm not worried about it. And how can I, be more comfortable with the motor, and what does me leaning back improve on the launch to make it easier. Everything was just kind of, how can I make it easier so that I have less worry and anxiety every time I go out to fly. And then from there, it was kind of like, it just trailed into everything else. So when I'm in the air, how can I make it easier to turn? How can I make it easier for myself to land? Because I still would get nervous about those things. Like coming into land, I'd be like psyching myself out and then be like, well, I know I've landed on my feet before, I can do it again, but what can I do to reassure myself that, I can land correctly? And then from there, it just became fun. When everything got easy and I knew I had the skills, it became fun, and I just wanted to progress again into foot dragging, into spot landing, into getting a shorter takeoff.
We have from that flag to that to take off.
Well, it's wider than the last spot.
Sure.
But shorter.
And
just slightly.
Climb over the trees.
Yep.
Are you concerned about it?
Not too bad, just that there are...
And don't hit the power lines.
Don't hit the power lines, don't hit the trees. That's pretty much it.
I am very excited to see this.
So
we got some girl power here.
Yeah.
I still felt like a newbie that whole time, and wanted to stay in a very safe zone for myself. So I had very strict boundaries. So if the weather wasn't perfect, if the LZ was small, I never wanted to push myself. I wanted to wait until I knew I had those skills dialed. So on a trip like when we were out in the Keys, when it was a very small, confined space, and we would be flying over a lot of water, which I knew I wasn't comfortable with, I would hold myself back until I knew that when I'm flying in a space where there's a lot of area that I can land in, if I pick one spot and I know that like 10 times in a row I can land in a very small space, I can then go out to a different LZ where the only place I can land is a very small spot, and I know I have the confidence and skill to land there with zero issue. Just thinking about different situations in my head while I'm in a safe zone and knowing that I can nail those skills with zero issue gave me confidence to then go out and adventure in spots where there is more risk, but knowing that I have the skills to fly there with little issue. I kind of realized I wanted to intern to be an instructor because I realized how much it changed my life, and I wanted to potentially help change other people's lives.
Keep down those A's up, keep down those A's up. Very good, release. Keep running straight. There you go, a little more power, lean back.
After interning my first few classes, I just kind of fell in love with the teaching process.
And abort. Turn around. Very good, kill that motor. Keep stepping backwards.
Over time, gained the skills and the knowledge to teach more classes, teach kiting, get my first time on the radio, instructing a student into the air.
How's it feel to be back in the sky?
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
And then eventually doing my first flight, or not my first flight, my first time talking a first time student up into the air.
All right, 2 steps back. Taking our nice deep breath. Arms out nice and wide. Take that nice deep breath, just relax. We're just kiting. All right, if things look perfect, we're gonna fly. Otherwise, we're just taxiing, okay? So I want your chest out, your chin up, arms out nice and wide. Give me that little touch of power to get the prop spinning. Perfect, right there. All right, when you're ready, kite back glider to me. Keep coming, keep coming. Keep coming forward, keep forward. Keep coming forward, keep coming forward. Put a little to your left. Perfect, a little more power. Keep running forward. Keep running, and turn to full, pressure to your shoulder. Keep running, keep running, keep running, keep running. Go ahead and slide out of your seat. Come down to idle. And I'm down here in the field. I want you to aim yourself right for me. We're just waiting. Give me about 2 inches of right pressure. Hold that little bit of right pressure. We're just waiting, ready to run. Kill the motor. Kill the motor. We're waiting, and pressure. Hold, hold, hold. All the way down. Perfect. Keep running, keep running. And hands up, turn around. Hands up. There you go. Now back down. Now back down. There you go.
Last night I did my first solo flight. It was incredible. It felt like my first flight again. I felt confident. He was confident in me. It was a great relationship, great process. I didn't really think about the fact that it was for my first flight. I just went at it like I had been flying him for a while. You know, obviously we were cautious. I just look forward to continuing to progress in my instructor skills. I just want to share this sport with everyone and see where it takes me. And being an instructor increases your knowledge so much because you not only have to understand the information yourself, but you have to understand how to explain it to someone else.
Oh my gosh. That was awesome.
In a lot of different ways because everyone has different learning processes. And then from there, just, you know, increasing my knowledge to teach all the classes here at Aviator, do all the different roles, whether that be in towing. I have my tandem exemption, which I love doing tandems. Like taking people up for their first time experience on a paramotor is incredible. It never gets old.
Our story became a world brand new. You and I, we have found what we've been missing. You and I, it feels like we're finally living. We are wide awake, it's all so clear. The dreams we held are standing.
How was it?
Awesome, man. I think she said I passed my oscillation test, huh? Okay, so we're making progress.
I don't think it was my goal to become a lead instructor. I think I just really wanted to be able to teach everything. And so like if a student does have a question, I have the answer for it. Everyone here at Aviator kind of saw that I had the capabilities and the leadership to now lead an entire class here at Aviator, which at first was daunting because I'm like, wow, that's a lot of responsibility. But honestly, I kind of love it. I like to be super collaborative with all the other instructors, you know, get their input on what we're doing, and then also just being able to lead a group of brand new baby pilots, get them all kind of bonded together and go through this really cool experience together has been very rewarding.
Pressure, keep running, power, hands up, power. Stay on that power. Slide a little to your right, slide to your right, left hand down. All the way to idle. Left hand up.
How was it? Oh, it's so good.
Both hands all the way up to the pulleys. Kill that motor for me. Kill that motor. Good. Both hands all the way up. Eyes on the horizon, ready to run. We're just gonna wait now. Just waiting. Just waiting. Just waiting. And pressure, pressure, hold. All the way down, all the way down. Run, 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 run. Keep running, keep running. Woo! Get those hands up, turn around. Get your hands back down, hands back down. Are you kidding me, dude? You just killed that.
Yo! What the Yo, what? Oh my gosh, bro. You was like full throttle. I'm looking at you. It's like, shit, am I hearing this correctly?
A little bit of wind to help get up. Nice and smooth air and beautiful flight.
I like to tell my students that this is a never-ending learning sport. Like, through your whole career of flying, you're never going to stop learning.